Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Legacy Leaders. Scott McMeans with Action Coach SBL. Today, I'm with Deborah Metzger, and she has a unique career, wonderful career path, and a very interesting niche that she fills for her clients. But before we get into all that detail, what I want to do is turn the microphone and the camera over to Deborah so she can explain a little bit about her career path, how she got here, and what makes her and what she does so unique. So, Deborah, microphone is yours. Camera is tuned to you. Tell us all about yourself.
Hi, Scott. Thanks for having me. I actually had a vision when I was in high school that if I was a really good secretary at a company, I could move my way up in any company I joined. And I took all business courses. So I skipped college and went right to work. And I was lucky enough to land a role with the Richard Jacobs Group, which at the time was the Indians owner. He became the Indians owner after I joined, and they promoted me within a year to a lease administrator job. And then I went on to do lease negotiations for them for about 17 years. And then when Dick Jacobs sold his shopping centers, I went to Forest City. I was invited to come over there, and I spent another 16 years over there doing lease negotiations. Trained some attorneys right out of high school at both companies, and then at when Forest City sold their shopping centers, I was invited to go to QIC, an Australian company that was owned by the Queensland government, and they bought Forest City shopping centers. They took all 80 of us, and then we have brand new offices. It was a great job, but then they left the U.S. market totally because the capital markets crashed and online sales were just so much more prevalent in the U.S. and Australia. So after that, all of us were let go, all 80 of us during COVID. So went to work with Federal for a little bit, and then I got a wonderful job with Scott Wolstein. He bought 9 shopping centers in Puerto Rico, and I was their legal person to do the lease negotiations. And unfortunately, Scott passed away unexpectedly. And then I decided, since it was tough out there to find a job in retail lease negotiations because of the economy, high interest rates, and everything, I decided to start my own company, Metzger Retail Lease Advisors, doing lease negotiation services and project management services for retail tenants. We can also assist landlords as well. So that's kind of how I got to where I am right now.
Such a crazy pathway. And for those young people in the audience, let me give you a little bit of clue of what Deborah just went through. She talked about Richard Jacobs, the Wolstein family, and those that were in and around the Forest City family of businesses. That is practically the best Cleveland royalty you can get outside of Rockefeller and Carnegie when it comes to property in Cleveland, Ohio. So Deborah knows her stuff. And what is interesting about her, and she made comment that she has trained lawyers throughout her career, but I'm going to let a little secret out. She doesn't have a legal degree. She is just really good at what she does. She has a vast amount of experience, right? So we're going to talk about that because that's a unique position. And I loved your comment. I knew I did not need to go to college right out of school. So I got a job, learned a trade, took business classes to understand what my trade and what my business classes could combine to be. And now I have this amazing career opportunity that I've built for myself because you didn't follow a standard path. And I want people to realize there's a lot more value and power in what you can do for yourself based on what you want out of your career. Not everybody needs to go to college. You could go to a trade school. You could do anything you want to do as long as it's a passion of yours, and you'll be able to find a career to make money, to live, and do the things you want to do. What Deb's done is pretty cool, right? She became a secretary, learned all the inside stuff, went got a degree in business, and then said, "This is what I know and
Well,
how I can do it."
God, I
Right?
don't
So
have
let's
a
talk through
degree
it.
in business, though. I don't have
But
a
you went to
degree.
business school, right?
Well, no, I actually didn't go to business school, to tell you the truth. I just learned a lot about the business, but
Okay.
no, I don't have any real schooling. I just really learned from the bottom up, which really helped me. But yeah, I just want to make that clear
So
because
I
people know
appreciate
me.
you
Will
doing
say
that.
she didn't go to business school.
No, I appreciate the clarification, but
Yeah,
it still doesn't take away from
no,
the point that we're making, which is the value you provide is not in your schooling, it's in your experience and expertise.
yeah.
And what you bring to the table is the ability to have somebody who's a landlord and somebody who wants to rent that space. How do you make those two talk to each other in the most effective and efficient way so they both win? And that's
Mhm.
what you do, right?
Yeah.
That's the retail leasing advisory role that you have, that just from what you and I have talked about before, it's a very unique space because not too many people do what you do, and not too many people are very good at it like you are. So, given your experiences, what are some of the things that you would call out to say, all right, this is what I learned, and I think everybody needs to learn if they're going to run their own business? What would that one or two things be that you think people need to know?
Well, when I started this business, it really was just because I just didn't know where else to go. And I thought it would be good to start one. My role is to, when somebody finds a retail space and they get that big lease from the shopping center owner, that's where I come into play and can help them navigate that lease and all the main points so that both sides win. And, maybe one side loses more and wins more than the other. It all depends on leverage too. But I like to
Yeah.
explain to people what their lease really means. I like to do it in a more streamlined and non-intimidating way because sometimes when you deal with lawyers and stuff, the average person, it's a little intimidating. So I kind of bring
Yep.
it down to their level, try to get to the main points. I try not to, have a ton of redrafts of the lease so that they don't pay a ton of money and just try to get to what's really important to that client. And I think being personal with people and listening to them and what their concerns are, I can save them some problems in the future. And just like to educate people about their lease and what it really means so that they know going forward how to make the best of their business.
It's funny how you made the comment. One of the most valuable things that you do is you listen, right?
Yes,
What I've discovered as a small business owner, we have to be unbelievably open to what words our clients are telling so we can figure out what they want and what they need. What's interesting is we talk about this all the time in our sales programs where you need to find somebody is going to tell you exactly what they want, but it's your job as a salesperson or a business owner, whoever, to find out exactly what they need. And that's what you present to them. Because not everyone is going to tell you, I need this. They're going to tell you what I want. And it's a very interesting collaborative exchange of ideas. And this is where I think your expertise is so unique, is everybody wants, if I'm a landlord, I want my entire property filled with tenants and I want it to be the highest price possible. And every tenant is like, I just want a space. And I want to pay the least amount of money possible. So that's what they both want. But what do they both
yes,
need? The owner, landlord needs somebody in their space to generate revenue. The business owner needs a space so they can open their business and then start their business and generate revenue. They both have a need, and you're facilitating that need by taking your unreal expectations of being way too high in price and your unbelievable expectation of being way too low on that rent, and finding the neutral ground that says, okay, you're both winning now. Let's move forward. That's a unique skill set. So
Well, I mean, I just did a lease in Westlake for Always Golf Club, and it was, Frank and his father were kind of looking into doing this, and Frank was mostly the person I dealt with, but I never opened up a retail operation at all. Was brand new, and we were able to like help him understand this lease, help him know when to maybe give on a point because you just don't have the leverage, or if things are being unfair, I can tell him that. So we had a really good experience getting that open. It's a golf simulator place with the bar, and our project manager helped them open and get their permits and be in accordance with the lease. So, I really enjoy helping people like that who have never opened a retail location because they just like to have two people, me and my project manager, that they can go to. If they have any questions after they sign the lease or anything in the future, they can call us and they don't have to deal with a big law firm, which I
yeah,
think is almost intimidating to some of these smaller businesses.
sure. And I think one of the points that you made earlier about, okay, we help you negotiate the lease, but then we have a project manager that actually manages the process to make sure that what you agreed on is actually being done, and neither party is being left outside without proper communication, understanding of where we are in the process and what needs to
Yeah.
take place. Again, I keep coming back to this is a really cool niche that you found for yourself, and I'm assuming you're a lot less expensive than a law firm that would have all these different intricacies involved in making this work. And you're a lot more personable than they are as well because you are intimately involved in the process because there's two people that know exactly what needs to be done because of your experiences. That's got to be the value proposition that people see when they come to work with you on either side of that equation, right? Whether they're a
Yes.
landlord or the tenant. So when we're
Yes.
doing these different relationships and we're kind of building this little world that you live in, how is it that you overcome, well, you don't have what the law firm has, or you're not what the law firm does. So how do you get over that hurdle?
Many years ago, when I first started doing this, yeah, it was a little difficult. But I have so many years and I've done thousands and thousands of leases that I really don't have people asking me about that. When I started the company, they always say, if you're going to start a business, you got to answer to a problem. What problem are you going to solve as a small business? The problem I'm going to solve is right now, and probably for a little while, interest rates are high, construction costs are high. It's a landlord's market. The rents are 20-year high. So it's really tough on retailers finding space, finding the right space, and finding the right rents that they can afford. The last thing they need is to pay big, big bucks just trying to get their lease done. And that's where I thought I can come in because you get the value of somebody who's probably done more leases over my time than most attorneys, just because it's all I have done my
Yeah.
entire career. So that's
Well,
where the expertise comes in and the value comes in.
100%. I appreciate you kind of walking us through that because that's the challenge that most businesses have is how do I legitimately present a value proposition that makes me unique? And if you can find a unique selling proposition that positions you against everybody else and they can't compete with you, price really isn't an issue. But one of your value propositions is I'm less expensive because I don't have all the rigmarole. I don't have all the issues and infrastructure necessary to do what they do. I just know what I do and how to read an agreement and pick out what does and what does not work for each party. And streamlining the process is a huge value proposition. So again, you said we answer to a problem. Perfect.
Mhm.
That's what every business should do, right? You you have people in the marketplace, they want something, they need something, and they just don't know where to get it. You open up a business and all of a sudden, wow, there's an avenue to get something done that wasn't there before, or it's a better option that was out there before. So perfect. Now,
Well, when I did my lease for the spa lady that I have out in Seattle, Washington, one of the reasons I got her business was a broker that I knew said, she just said to her broker, I can't afford to pay another $10,000, $12,000 for a lease. And she said, I know somebody because I've worked with her for years at one of our companies. And so she recommended me. So I can help, commercial realtor brokers just be able to make a deal based on the fact that, hey, yeah, you're going to pay a little bit more for rent and stuff, but I got somebody who can negotiate your lease and save you a little bit of money.
yeah,
That's my whole purpose, and it's just really about helping people. That's what I want to do.
no, that's awesome. The comment you made, I want to make sure people understand this. You are based here in Northeast Ohio, but you can do your services anywhere across the country because you
I've
just make
done
time.
I've done thousands of leases across the whole U.S. because the companies I worked for, we did leases in all kinds. We had shopping centers all over the U.S. So I've done
Yeah.
leases all over, and I've done leases everything from mom and pop to like Bed Bath and Beyond and those bigger tenants. So yeah, I've done a ton. I've done a ton.
And I don't want to pick on, not pick, your experience with Dick Jacobs, but I want to understand how that translated into what you do now because everybody knows him as yeah he owned the Cleveland Indians at the time, but he made his fortune being a landlord. He made his fortune on property management, right? So when I said earlier that between the different families you've had a chance to work with, you've gotten experience with all of them. What is
Yeah.
some of the best experience you've gotten from working with Dick Jacobs, working with the Wolsteins, working with the Forest City team? Like, what are those things that you pull out of those experiences that you think are translatable to other people, regardless of the nameplate of the business they work for? What experiences are the most valuable that you can pull from working in this or in the space you work in? Does that make sense as a question?
I think so. I mean, when I first got the job with Dick Jacobs, it was funny because I had worked with leases before, but I didn't really know they were the fifth largest mall owner in the U.S. when I
Yeah,
joined them. So that was the beginning. And they just moved me up very quickly. I had great people to coach me, great attorneys that helped me along the way, teach me to be very detail oriented when you're in the legal business. And the other thing is, because I'm not an attorney, I always had the mindset that I have to be a cut above because I can't afford to be a non-attorney and not really know what I'm talking about because I'd be out of this a long, long time ago. So many people along the way, who I'm still in contact with, have helped me along the way, taught me. I've had some of the best real estate attorneys teaching me.
Mm.
So yeah, the Jacobs experience was a great company. It was very fun when he bought the Indians. I took away a lot of skills from that time. And then when I went to Forest City with the Ratner family, much faster moving company. It was interesting because Dick Jacobs didn't care how long you took to get a lease done as long as you got what he wanted. But that back then, you could ask for pretty much what you wanted as a landlord because retailers were just dying to get into the new malls. Then the 90s came and it got a little tougher, and I was with Forest City. That was a great company too. The Ratners were wonderful people, very family-oriented company as well. And a lot of people that I worked with there in the leasing area were from Jacobs because Forest City liked Dick Jacobs people and knew that they were going to be available. So again, I go to another company, I'm working with the same people, which is wonderful. And then again, Forest City sold and we went to QIC. And then the Scott Wolstein job. That was very interesting because I was working with 9 shopping centers in Puerto Rico, and that's all he had bought. It was a very small company. I was their only legal person doing his lease negotiations. It was a dream job, dream job.
Love that for you.
And unfortunately, he passed away, and the circumstances were such that I ended up forming this company, which is, been very nice, very interesting, and I hope it continues for a long time. That's what I plan.
Well,
So.
given your track record, Deborah, given the performance you've had during this track record, I foresee a very solid future for you.
Well,
That's
that's what I'm
exactly what
planning on, Scott. I wouldn't do this without that. Again,
Absolutely.
yeah.
So I want to talk real quickly about like what are the bigger challenges that you've faced or lessons that you think are worthy of other people to know, this is how I learned, this is what I came up in, and this is the biggest impact on me. What would you like to share with the audience in that well or that in that realm?
You know, I've got to admit that I don't think it's going to ever be as easy to do like what I did because companies, they really want those degrees. I mean, I
Mhm.
don't think it's as easy to do what I did now because of just the way things are in business. But I think that, mentors are one of the best things I can tell people to do is, have mentors, have people that are in your corner that believe in you and that could help you succeed in anything you want to do. I still have people from Forest City that I still am in touch with, and Scott Wolstein's attorney, who has really helped me over the last couple years in trying to start this business, giving me advice. So talk to people, learn as much as you can. If you can move up, do the best you can, and always listen. I think you'll do fine.
That's a great piece of advice. And I think there's a lot of people that are so stuck in a track that they've been told to take, but they haven't taken the track that they're passionate or interested in. And I think people need to really pay attention to. You don't have to have so many letters after your name. You just have to have a passion to go do something that serves others. And I think that's what makes a very successful business. So thank you for sharing that.
Anybody who's known me for many years knows one thing I've always said, I love my job. I, you
Yeah.
know, when you don't have the degrees and stuff like that, and you can't believe that you're doing the job you're doing and you got
Mhm.
promoted years ago, I never take it for granted. I'm one of these people who every day goes, I can't believe that I get to do lease negotiations and be very good at it. Always be another thing, always be grateful, right? Always be grateful, always think positive, always believe in yourself, and you'll do fine.
I love that. I'm going to ask you a final question because I think this is really tying into what we're talking about now. I'm going to put you in a time machine and I'm going to send you back, and you're going to sit on a park bench next to an 18-year-old Deborah. What's that conversation like?
Well, I guess it depends on who that person is, but
No, no,
again,
no. I want you to sit down and talk to 18-year-old Deborah as you.
oh, as me.
Yeah, you're going to go
Um,
back in a time machine, Deborah. I'm going to sit you on a
uh-huh.
park bench next to an 18-year-old version of yourself. What's that conversation like?
What would I tell them as me being 18?
Yeah.
I've been very happy with what I've accomplished, so I would tell them kind of just what I told you. I would say, "Hey, Debbie, keep believing, keep doing what you're doing, and do the best you can at any job." Because I'll tell you, I've worked some fast food places before in high school and stuff, and my work ethic is no different than when I worked at Red Barn or Baskin Robbins than it is now. And that I think is really important. You always do the best, Debbie, at whatever job you do because people do notice when you think they're not looking.
Yeah, that's a
And
good
that
piece.
Yes, and that's when somebody will come up to you and say, "Hey, just when they did it, Dick Jacobs and said, 'Hey, we're thinking about promoting you.'" I remember I was working with two other assistants. One had a associate degree, and the other one, I don't think planned to be there real long. But I started doing just some real kind of nitpicky kind of things that they would kind of make fun of me for. Well, you don't need to do that. Well, no, I think it looks better. I think it looks more professional. I think, and then when I got promoted over the other two that had been there longer. Well, you can imagine it wasn't real pleasant for me, but um, again, it didn't depend. It didn't matter what job I did. I wanted to be the best that I could at it.
And I appreciate you telling the audience that because that's what makes a difference. And I'm going to go back to what you said here about work ethic. Um, I think work ethic is something that is instilled in you early in your career. If you're allowed to get away with being lazy and not necessarily being recognized, but being passed through the system because it's just easier to get you through the system, that person is never really going to appreciate the amount of work it takes to be productive. Work ethic starts, and that's what's so interesting about those jobs at Red Barn, which doesn't exist anymore. But for the
Yeah,
young people out there, it was a
I'm
McDonald's
dating
type place.
myself.
Well, Red Barn was a really cool restaurant, great hamburgers, but it was literally in a barn and it was a fast food place. But um, that's why those jobs are so vital for young kids. So it gives you a chance to understand the effort I put in gives me something in return, whether it's a paycheck or an education, and I get a chance to move up and get promoted. Those parts of you when you're young and you're in those jobs doesn't dictate exactly what career you're going to have, but it gives you an insight into your own self-worth that I can contribute as much as I possibly can, and I'm going to get rewarded for it. Whether, again, the money, the recognition for either being promoted or you're just going to learn something. That to me is vital. When you have those type of jobs where you get a chance to build your own little work ethic, it cascades throughout your entire career because you know what it takes to be there. So I appreciate you saying that and sharing it with the audience because there's a lot of people out there that just love to skate by and don't do anything and they don't understand why somebody else is getting promoted over them or they don't understand why they're not making enough money. Everything that led to you being in this position where you are right now is because of the decisions you made leading up to that point. So you can't blame anybody but yourself.
Well,
That's the
let me
best way
tell
to
you
think
one
about
other tidbit of information I
it.
think you'll find very interesting because I don't think we talked about this. When we were first let go, with Scott Wolstein passing away and, the economy and everything, I knew that there's been hardly any jobs, if any, for me to apply to. So I actually worked at McDonald's for 9 months a year
Sure.
and a half ago. And I'll tell you, I used to joke with attorneys when I would negotiate leases that my job was going to be at McDonald's, so I didn't have to think so much. Let me tell you, that is far from the truth. You have to hustle there. I
Yeah.
get home and my Fitbit would say, 13,000 steps. I mean, I can't even tell you, but it was a really cool experience, and I'm very proud of myself for keeping up with those kids. And
Yeah.
they always tell me, anytime you need to come back, you come back. But that was very interesting to do. And it just shows you that you got to do what you need to do. I'm not going to just sit there and not do nothing, but I need to bring in a little bit of money before my business gets going because, it always
Yeah.
takes a little time. But yes, I did work at McDonald's not too long ago, and I'm very proud of
Not necessarily a full circle moment, but
that.
interesting that, right? And again, it's so interesting though. We're talking about a work ethic that was created when you were younger. And why was it created that way? Because you wanted something better than what you were currently doing. And I think that has a lot to do with what your work ethic is founded in is I'm good at this, but I want to be better. So then you move forward. If you're only interested in being stuck where you are, then that's where you're going to be. And I feel bad for somebody who has that mentality of I'm good where I am. Like, no, there's so much more abundance out there. You should be grateful for the opportunities and take advantage of them. The only way you're going to be able to successfully take advantage of an opportunity is to see it and jump to it and then perform. That's it. It's not rocket science to do this stuff. But I am impressed by your career path and all the different things you've been able to do and the humility it took to go back to your roots and be in McDonald's. Now
I was
you're,
good at it too. I was
I'm
really
sure
good
you
at
were. Sure you were.
it.
But okay, now we're at a point in your career where you're established. This business is doing what you want it to do. And I know you said earlier you want to keep doing this as long as you can. What is the next step for you? Are you going to expand with more project managers? Are you going to expand with people on your team to be more negotiations? Or what is your expectation over the next 5 years?
My expectation, it will be just me and my project manager
Yeah. Okay.
because there's a reason there are no jobs out there for me. It is the economy, and I'm not real hopeful, to tell you the truth, about the next year. So leases are tough right now. After COVID, when we were all let go, I had three companies coming after me. Why? The interest rates were rock bottom.
Mhm.
Retailers were anxious to get going after the shutdown. It was great. And then the interest rates crept up, and then that really hurts retailers opening new stores.
Oh
So
yeah.
it is a little tough right now, but I'm still very new. So I'm reaching out to more and more people on LinkedIn, different, I'm joined several chambers of commerce, things like that, trying to get more business. But it is tough out there right now. I know a developer in Cleveland that they just lost their senior lease negotiator. They don't even know if they'll replace her right now. That's how it is. So it will get
Mhm.
better. I have no doubt. It's cyclical. It
Yeah.
always is. But for right now, there is no plan. I hope I get enough leases that I would need help one day, but that is not happening right now, for most people. So, but it'll get better. So yeah, right now there's no plan. As long as I can keep up with the leases I have, I wouldn't have enough to bring on. I mean, that's the problem. Even getting a job in a small law firm is they don't have enough leases for me. Okay, it's got to
Gotcha.
be a big shopping center developer who has constant leases. So yeah, so we're still developing the company and everything, and yeah, I do plan to. I don't know if I'll ever expand. I told you the other day I do have another venture I'm going to be working on, so
Sure.
I'm not going to share today, but
Nope.
that's another thing that I'm working on. So that will take time away too. But yeah, I want to be there for any of my clients for many years to come. Whenever they have questions on their lease, or they need to amend their lease, or they need to renew their lease, anything they have, they can just call the same person all the time, which I think would be very comforting if I were a business owner to be dealing with the same people all the time.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a whole thing about customer experience and wanting to be personal with those people you deal with. So I think that's a really good touch. And before we get closed out here, I want people to recognize if you're successful and good at running one business, you could be successful at running multiple businesses. And that's what Debbie is trying to do in the next so many months
Yeah.
is jumpstart a new venture into the marketplace. So be on the lookout for that.
Yeah.
In the meantime, all the information that you need to get in touch with Debbie will be in the description down below. And any final thoughts?
I really appreciate you inviting me on here to talk about my business and everything. It's been great. And I just hope that my business will be well, I don't hope, I know it will be very successful.
Yeah, hope
But
is a
yeah,
terrible
anybody out
strategy.
there who, one of the things I would just stress with my business is versus a law firm is I'm not going to charge you for every phone call. I want to educate you on your lease. And
Mhm.
sometimes that means, with my spa lady in Seattle, Washington, talking to her at like midnight when she gets done with her salons, and being able to talk to her about the businesses, the business problems that she's coming across. And, right now she's looking for another location. So we might have a lease coming up. And
Yeah,
yeah, I just want to teach people, and I want them to not be intimidated. You can come to me anytime. You need a quick question. I'm not going to write it down and charge you. I'm more interested in helping you learn your lease.
perfect. Love that. Thank you so much. And I
Thank
want to,
you.
yeah, my pleasure. For everybody, thank you for being on the Legacy Leaders, and we will see everybody on the next episode.
Bye bye.